So you've been to World Youth Day, now what? Seriously, you've had the mountaintop experience. It's now after World Youth Day, it's after the World Youth Day high. How do World Youth Day participants keep those flames of World Youth Day alive? How do they continue nourishing the seeds of faith that were planted during World Youth Day? How do they stay planted and rooted in Christ and firm in the faith? Those are some of the questions that we'll be addressing today, but we begin where it all begins, before World Youth Day.
Very much looking forward to this event of World Youth Day. I will be traveling with close to 500 delegates from our Archdiocese. And like any bishop traveling with his people, it's a wonderful opportunity to accompany them as they seek to know the Lord more deeply, as they seek to grow in their love for Him and to be purified by that love and mercy, and to grow in the beauty and in the joy of discipleship. It's a tremendous experience of the reality of the vibrancy of the church, and it helps to put down roots deep within the hearts of the young people for the life of faith in the years to come.
And that was a group from Edmonton as they prepared for World Youth Day with Archbishop Richard Smith. And joining me now in the studio are two young men who I think it's fair to say that they've responded to that World Youth Day call. Neiman D'Souza, he's a seminarian for the Archdiocese of Toronto. And right with him is Jonathan Nix, who is the coordinator of youth ministry at St. Bonaventure Parish in Toronto. Welcome, you guys. A couple weeks ago, we were looking at the idea of the World Youth Day experience, trying to sort of define that experience. And I think that we can't talk about kind of unpacking the World Youth Day experience before redefining World Youth Day. So my first question would be, what is that World Youth Day experience? How would you define the World Youth Day experience, Neiman?
The World Youth Day experience is an encounter with Christ within all the different events that are organized with World Youth Day. A lot of people, they talk about, having this World Youth Day experience, but they kind of define it by all these kind of events and things that they've been to. But I find the deepest kind of experience, the World Youth Day experience that touches hearts, are the ones where people find Christ in all those moments of World Youth Day. So it would be something like that.
Okay, what do you think, Jonathan?
One of the defining moments for me that helped me realize why we were there is in the welcoming ceremony for the Pope as he arrived in Madrid. We had waited for about 12 hours in the sun throughout the day. It rained a little bit as well. And then we realized, the route had been changed for security reasons. So there's a lot of disappointment and frustration, and Spaniards, elbowing you in the head and all this. So you're getting sweaty, you're getting frustrated, you're getting angry. But then despite all that, as the little paraliturgy that they had after the reflection, we all started singing the Salve Regina together. Okay. And that for me really pinpointed it. It was almost a mystical experience because there's a million people singing this prayer together. Okay. And we're all there present with Christ among us.
But what is it about, because you could have had that experience, and I'm not disagreeing at all. Yeah. You had that encounter, I think that Neiman was talking about, but can you not, how is that specific to World Youth Day? Can't you do that in Midland as you did every year before, or?
What makes it different is that you're also encountering youth from around the world. Okay. And there's something to be said about, meeting other people who are quite possibly on the same faith journey you are having, and the struggles and challenges you're having in life. Lo and behold, there are people in Brazil, people in Germany, in France, who have the same experiences. To share those experiences, talking with a friend about this encounter with Christ, that's a big element of it. And there's an experience of the universal church. There's seeing the hierarchy of the church celebrate the sacraments, participating and being welcomed. The church calling us out and saying, this is for you. This is an event created so that you could have a deeper encounter with Christ. I think that's what makes World Youth Day a distinct event compared to other youth events.
Fair. Now, this World Youth Day Madrid was the first for both of you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, but you're not new to church experiences.
No.
Or to encounters with Christ. What did you expect in going to World Youth Day? Or how did your expectations how were they met or not met? Is that a fair question?
Yeah. I really didn't have any expectations. I really had no idea what we would encounter there, what it would be like. Even the programming, we got schedules beforehand, but they were kind of bare bones. But just back to what you were saying, one of the truly profound things is that we're encountering these people from all over the world with similar experiences of faith, but such different experiences in their regular lives. But we're all coming together with that one thing in common, and that is the love of God, the love of love.
Okay.
And that's what really speaks to me about World Youth Day coming together. Never mind just the sheer mass of it all.
Yeah. Well, and how does that then shape your life, like your life specifically? You came back.
Well, for myself, like what was my expectation was I was expecting a lot of madness, like a lot of crazy large crowds,
like chaos.
Lots of and I was going there as a leader of a group as well. So there were a lot of youths I had to take care of. And so I was worried about them, pickpockets and all these logistics about a pilgrimage. So going there, I was going to be on ministry mode the whole time, thinking I got to take care of all these people. But it was in that experience as a leader that I learned a lot about my own vocation and the sacrifice that need to be made to make a pilgrimage fruitful. And coming back from the trip, I found myself and my role in ministry and how I could help people and guide them along their own faith journeys. It was in that role of leadership at World Youth Day that I got a better taste of something I'll experience later on as a priest, God willing.
God willing. When you came back, did you go through a period where you were like, I mean, we talk about that sort of World Youth Day withdrawal. Did you go through a little bit of that? It's like you had this mountaintop experience and then you come back and it's like, you have to kind of go back to work. Or
well, as soon as a friend of mine picked me up from the airport, and as soon as I stepped out of her car, I basically collapsed just from the exhaustion. And, I was sick for 2 weeks. So literally there's some physical withdrawal there. But it is something that you crave, that energy, that excitement in the air. I mean, just riding the metro at like midnight with all the kids, waving the trains in and just cheering and chanting in all the different languages, that kind of excitement to be Catholic, to believe in God and Christ. That's something especially in Toronto, that's something that we almost crave.
You going through a withdrawal?
No. In fact, maybe I just handled it well. Like when I came back to Toronto, I didn't really experience a withdrawal, but it was more of a peace and a clarity in terms of what I need to do now with my life. You're experiencing all this chaos, and then the different kind of moments of grace throughout World Youth Day kind of, sorted me out a little bit. So when I came back, I've got a bit more focus, and I feel like I've grown a little bit. So coming back into Toronto and ordinary life, I'm excited because now I've got this new perspective of things.
That's good, I guess. That's good. We posted the question on Facebook, as we do every week, and there were lots of different comments, but there were 3 in particular that I thought were great because they were really tangible things. It's like, I came back from World Youth Day and now I want to do this. Gerald says that he wants to join ecclesial movements and faith-sharing groups. Diane says, daily mass and prayer, join a prayer group. Ray says, share the fruit of the tree that emerged from the seeds planted during World Youth Day. What else is there to do? You weren't coordinator of youth ministry before you went to World Youth Day, or were you?
I was kind of transitioning in, yeah.
Okay, so you were already kind of in that mode. You're already a seminarian. Did you come back thinking, especially you talk about the clarity, that you now have a more specific focus to what you're being called to do, and that came out of your World Youth Day experience?
For me, it wasn't a specific focus, but more of a challenge.
Okay.
The challenge to share these experiences and to keep that energy alive and keep that momentum moving forward. And how do we do that in very practical ways? Right. So one thing our pilgrims did was in our parish, we gathered together and we shared our experiences and just had a little town hall meeting sort of thing. We all got up and presented it. And that was one good thing, especially since our parish worked so hard to support us to get there.
Right.
So giving back to
So sharing with, you mean with the parishioners?
Yeah, with our parishioners, and then eventually, the greater community, and then, keep that moving outward.
Yeah, so that they know
For myself, like there's definitely that more focused clarity. Coming back, I realized that I'm part of this bigger church, and I'm called to serve this church, local and a universal. And as my own vocation to the priesthood, I realized that I'm not just a priest for Toronto, but I'm a priest for Roman Catholics everywhere as well. And to be that witness, that sign to Christ. For me, like a big life-changing moment was the Mass with seminarians, with Pope Benedict.
Yeah.
And you're sitting in the sea of humanity of all these seminarians. Yeah. And cassocks, habits, guys in golf shirts, all types. Yeah, and you're just, there's this wow moment where you just realize, I'm one of many who've been called. It's a humbling experience, but also, the fact that the Pope wanted a Mass just for seminarians. It means something.
That's something that Benedict started, yeah. Before we break, in the clip that we saw with the pilgrims from Edmonton, they were preparing for World Youth Day, and I know that with Toronto you had to prepare. I'm sure that you were preparing your group. Do you see a connection between the preparation and the post activities? Like, when you're thinking of preparing, do you think, what are we going to do when we come back? And it's almost like World Youth Day really is all about the preparation and what happens afterwards, and not so much about what happened at the event. Was that?
Yeah, I mean, part of it, my predecessor, Rachel, put in a lot of effort to kind of form our pilgrim group, along with the OCY events, just to help us understand what a pilgrimage is, why we're going to Madrid, and then what we can do to bring it all back here. And that culminated in this faith-sharing witness day that we had.
Right.
I think it's important to have that type of formation so that we understand you're not just going, it's not a vacation, clearly. Yeah. I mean, we're working on 3 hours of sleep, we're running all over the place, 10, 12 hours of walking every day in the hot sun. Why are we going to endure that? And if it's to have that encounter with Christ amongst all that crazy, crazy sweaty people, then yeah, I mean, we really wanted something totally worth it to bring back, and I think that was the case with World Youth Day in Madrid.
Okay, we're going to take a little break. We're going to continue. I want to pick up on this same question. It's a short break, don't go anywhere. And when we come back, we're going to look specifically at how other groups are also digesting their World Youth Day experience. So stay tuned.
Let us know your perspective. Email us at perspectives@saltandlighttv.org or reach us by mail, Perspectives at Salt and Light Television, 114 Richmond Street East, Toronto, Ontario, M5C 1P1, or call us toll-free at 1-888-302-7181. Let your perspective be heard.
One thing that really became very apparent to me at World Youth Day was how much I really rely and depend upon God. So now that it's become painfully clear, I'm really now more aware of how the Spirit works and acts in my life and how God really supports me.
I see the world differently, and that I perceive things in a new light in the World Youth Day.
I would say that this experience definitely made me feel like I could be more outspoken about my faith rather than before. Not that I was ever ashamed of it or anything like that, but the environment and the energy in being in Spain was just so amazing.
It's made me much happier about my faith. I used to be very hidden about my faith, and I wouldn't talk about it to anyone. But now that I've gone to World Youth Day and I've experienced a pilgrimage, I want to share that experience with everyone else.
And that was a group from the Archdiocese of Toronto at their post-World Youth Day gathering, which took place last week. And I believe both of you were there. Yes. I know you were there because you were in the clip. Just to pick up where we left off, Neiman, do you see a relationship between that sort of preparation to World Youth Day and it's not really the post-World Youth Day, but kind of where the work begins after World Youth Day?
Yeah, definitely. There has to be a relation. With an event that's so intense like World Youth Day, you have to prepare for it. There's a lot of things you need to know about, what this experience could be like. and you need to prepare your heart for these encounters, because these are very deep encounters with Christ. And so there's a lot of preparation that has to occur. But when you have this encounter with Christ, it's not just an encounter just for you to enjoy on your own, but you're supposed to share that joy with others. And so coming back from World Youth Day, that kind of formation that occurs after the event of World Youth Day is important, because it takes time to make sense of all these different things that happened. And it's hard to do that because each pilgrim has kind of their own unique experience of what happened at World Youth Day. The call of Christ is particular to each individual. But as a whole, we could share those experiences and grow more fruitfully afterwards.
After coming back, after having that World Youth Day experience and coming back, how did you see, I guess, your home and your parishes or your work or school? Did you see it differently? Was there a disappointment there? It's like, oh, here's the church should be better, or we should do more. Did you go through any of that?
Not specific to coming back. I mean, it's always kind of in the back of my mind, like, how can I do more? Or how can we as a community do more?
And I guess that's a good response.
Yeah. There's always that striving to want to do more, and I think events like World Youth Day make that ever more clear. That yes, we're all here, but how can we work together to do something greater?
Right. Did you feel the same? That you wanted to? You talk about this clarity to your vocation.
Definitely. You kind of, when you get stuck in a routine, you kind of do the same old thing, and then when you have an event that just shakes you up a little bit, it educates you about the opportunities you have to share Christ in more different and more vibrant ways.
Yeah.
For myself, coming back, I look at my my theological studies, and I'm like, there's some things I need to brush up on. There's some things that I want to focus on. If I'm going to the parish, there's a certain type of joy that you want to share in a different sort of way, and you're transformed from those experiences. So naturally, everything you do is going to have a little different flavor than it had before. So for myself, coming back to the churches, you see all these beautiful pieces of art and all these altar pieces in Spain, and then you come back, you're tempted to compare the beauty, but there's you also see the parishioners and the people, your familiar faces, and you're kind of invigorated with a new sense of joy and hope and love that you want to serve these people even more. Yeah.
When I finished working for World Youth Day in 2002 in Toronto, one of the priests that was with our office, Father Joe de Viveros, had been the director of liturgy. He kind of went around and as everybody's kind of going through all these emotions, he was sort of saying, when you have a personal encounter with Christ, a meaningful personal encounter with Christ, it leads to a calling. That's how you know. All that was kind of happening inside of me anyway, but he was great because he helped me put words to it. And you keep talking about this encounter with Christ and this clarity that has given you, or how it's kind of empowered you to, what can I do to do more, to bring that experience to people here who haven't had it. Is that sort of that calling? It's like I'm not saying that every encounter maybe has to lead to a calling, but at some point, does it have to lead to a calling? And it's that kind of the beauty of World Youth Day.
In my mind, we all already have that calling. To come out and express this inherent love and joy that exists within inside of all of us. And what's great about events like World Youth Day is that love and that joy can be expressed in so many different ways, from so many different cultures and perspectives.
See, I know that the calling is there. Sorry, the calling is there, but we might not be able to put our finger on it.
Yeah.
I ended up going into formation for the permanent diaconate, and that's very much rooted in 2002, 10 years ago. 6 years later, I'm going into formation for the permanent diaconate, and I can trace it. I can actually today trace it right back to that calling that came out of a meaningful personal experience that I had with Christ working for World Youth Day. I don't know. I'm just wondering if that's an experience that other people go through.
I think people naturally, when you have vivid encounter with Christ, looking into the face of Christ, you learn more about yourself, in kind of meditating on Christ. So when you're in that encounter, you learn more about yourself, and through that clarity, you realize, what are your gifts, what are your talents, things you need to work on, and who you are in the eyes of God. And that kind of sets the context for you to discern, now what do we do with this joy that Christ has given me? And people have a variety of calls and vocations, but by virtue of baptism, we're all called to something. And you know, it's up there. You don't really know what it is until you first encounter Christ and talk with him about it.
Okay.
And that's how you kind of, you learn more about Christ, but also learn more about yourself and how you were created.
Maybe just to conclude, we can, if there are young people out there or World Youth Day pilgrims who are kind of trying to figure out what to do now, a lot of people go and they're having doubts of their faith, but they go anyway, and then they come back, they're not connected with a group. What would be your advice to them? How do they continue watering those seeds so that they stay planted and rooted in Christ? What do you guys think?
If you're having difficulty, I mean, I'd always turn to prayer and, you know, set up that routine. That's been one of the most difficult challenges for me, just with the craziness of life generally, and just trying to revisit those encounters with God,
through prayer.
Yeah, just through prayer. And you know, in the liturgy, or in any liturgy, you know, the liturgy of the hours or the Eucharist, anything like that. I think that's one way how we can revisit that and help us refuel and get back out there.
Prayer is good, always.
Yeah, the prayer is obviously very important. You'd have to, you know, look at your own spiritual life. You know, go to the Eucharist, go to confession, and work on your spiritual life. But another element would be, you know, we're not created as, you know, to be Christians just for ourselves. And it's important that you get involved in and participate in a variety of activities with other Catholics. And my recommendation would be, you know, sign up and go to the different archdiocesan events. I know the Archdiocese of Toronto does a youth rally every year. Show up, you know, it's great. You're surrounded by young Catholics. You know, go to different events around the Archdiocese, Lectio Divina with the Archbishop. You meet a lot of youth there who are still trying to have this encounter with the Word of God. So just go to things and don't stay at home and just, you know, look at pictures all the time.
No, that's good. Join a group. Okay, we're going to conclude there, but the discussion continues as it always does on Facebook. So facebook.saltandlighttv.org. We're going to maybe conclude our discussion by reflecting on this Sunday's gospel, which is, it's the parable of the wicked tenants from Matthew. Part of it goes like this. Jesus said to them, "Have you never read in the scriptures, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. This was the Lord's doing, and it is amazing in our eyes. Therefore I tell you, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people that produces the fruits of the kingdom." So that's again from Matthew chapter 21. Start with Jonathan.
Yeah, it's kind of a gruesome passage, you know, with all the beatings and killings coming from the joy of World Youth Day. But I think there are two specific messages that speak to World Youth Day as well. The first bit, not to squander the gifts that we've been given, that fruit that we've been given, but to share it, give it back to God and give it back to the world. And then the second part, which I think relates perfectly, is allowing Christ to be that cornerstone. If Christ is that cornerstone upon which we build our faith in our church, you know, how do we root ourselves there and then build it up?
Good. Neiman?
It's all about stewardship of these graces we received. You know, God hasn't given us these experiences just for ourselves, and sometimes it's actually very important that we you know, let them kind of ferment, that we let them kind of develop, so we could give them back to God. I think in the beginning of that passage is a whole bit about, you know, the boundaries, and that's the boundaries of World Youth Day. The wine press being, you know, our faculty of reason. We got to make sense of these things. After World Youth Day, people will come and want to ask us and teach us things. And sometimes we're kind of overprotective about these experiences. We've got to open up to these people and open up to others, and so we could share these joys with others. And if we don't, the warning is there that we're going to lose out. And these things that we're grasping on so tightly will escape our grasp.
Well, thank you very much. Those are all good. Lots of good advice. Prayer, get plugged in, share the experience with others. Thank you so much, guys. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And good luck this year, and you as coordinator of youth ministry. Our two guests have been Neiman D'Souza. He's a seminarian for the Archdiocese of Toronto, and Jonathan Nix. He's the coordinator of youth ministry at St. Bonaventure Parish in Toronto. The program ends here, but the discussion continues on Facebook, facebook.saltandlighttv.org. And while you're online, don't forget to visit our website to watch this episode or any of our Perspectives programs, saltandlighttv.org/perspectives. That's where we archive all our programs. So that's all for tonight. We'll see you next week.